for joining us. So today you get the framework, you get the tools to think differently about solving a particular problem, which is what you're going to do for the corporate challenge later in the year, and in some of the assessment we've got for the modules that we've got on the MBA lecture. So enjoy the day.
So this is part of our design process. IDEO is a design agency. We often talk about ourselves, particularly actually in the UK, we often talk about ourselves more as an innovation agency, an innovation consultancy, because design is quite a loaded word. And we very much practice design with a deep D, a big D, but also a little d. And we are an agency that's really evolved this process called design thinking. You know, the guide is really designed to talk to the entrepreneurial spirit of what we would call designers with a small d, which are people like you, people designing, for example, future business models, systems, or working with other more traditional design disciplines in multidisciplinary teams, perhaps in a startup, perhaps in a corporate innovation culture or strategy team. So this is very much trying to talk to, and this is what we need your feedback on. You know, are we talking to this? And when you read this in a second, we're going to release you into this, and you're going to hopefully have a bit of a sort of play around with it. Does it talk to the entrepreneurial spirit in you? So we're really trying to appeal to actual entrepreneurs, but also it's a funny word, isn't it? But intrapreneurs, so people with an entrepreneurial spirit in large corporations, for example. And you know, the reason we're doing that is we don't believe this guide will provide the answers. We don't think it's going to provide. It's not going to create a circular world overnight, that's for sure. But we're trying to create something that allows you to ask some different questions around how value can be created. And so it would be really interesting to understand from you whether we're in any way getting towards that. We're trying to say this is a really exciting time. It's a time of huge opportunity for systems design and for businesses to really kind of get ahead in that sense, to allow themselves to deal with some of these changes and you know, an exciting time of systems change in that sense. And of course for this idea of interdisciplinary design. So you know, if you're having to design across a system, you know, that's or you're thinking indeed of change of the system itself. You know, you're thinking about the business side, you're thinking about the user side, you're thinking about the operations side, you're thinking about you're thinking across silos to design systems. And I suppose that's what we're trying to connect to really with this thought around it's an exciting time for the world and for the interconnectedness of kind of business thinking and design at the moment. We've tried to highlight where circular economy is changing design thinking, because that's happening as well, or design, the role of design and designer. And we've got 4 points here. So one of them is I've mentioned it already, but you know, traditionally we tended to think about a traditional end user, maybe even the language end user, obviously very linear. And now we're trying to say, still be human-centered in your design approach, still be user-centered, but now you have to embrace a wider system of users, potentially across the value chain, and usages. So you're designing for multiple uses, not just the traditional usage cycle of a product. Come back to that in a second because it links to another point here. Reimagine viability, and this was that point I made about you know, slightly different competitive strategies potentially. So thinking about growing the pie. So this is reimagine business viability. So it places some different emphasis on where you might find value or be able to generate value. So you know, by designing your materials to be reusable, you may actually be growing the value that the whole industry can generate, but actually creating a bigger slice for yourself. So that's kind of one area where we're reimagining maybe or emphasising some different aspects of traditional sort of business model thinking. And then designing for evolution is the third point. And this is really that, you know, where design thinking may be about iterative loops. That's great, but it was always often designing things in an A to Z or whatever you want to call it design process that started from coming up with an idea to designing the idea to launching it into the market and then forgetting about it. And then the design stopped. That was the end of the design of that product. And now, if we're not there yet, we will soon be at a point where we should be thinking about product design as more like software design. So you release something, you'd expect to iterate it. You know, and if you think about it, that use of maybe embedded intelligence is really going to allow us to kind of do that. So thinking about the design process as something that you would enter with a kind of live, a going concern potentially, some materials that you're not starting from scratch with. They already have some value to your system. Potentially, this is something that you're taking back and readjusting based on the feedback you're getting. And as you get more familiar with circular economy design, you'll begin to really, I think, embrace that idea of the importance of creating feedback loops. So, you know, you need to understand a lot about what's going on in the system. You need to understand a lot about how your product's being used to really capitalize on the value that can be created. So creating kind of feedback loops, designing for evolution, designing for some, you know, thinking about a non-linear design process where the design doesn't stop, it's continuous. And then building a strong narrative. This has always been important in design, great design. You always want to think about maybe, I don't know, the brand you're putting around your innovation, the way that engages the user, for example, or the business that you're trying to persuade to launch this innovation you come up with. And that's never been more important than it is in the circular economy, where so much of what you'll be doing will be about changing the mindsets of colleagues. You know, let's say you're working in business next year. You know, the circular economy, unfortunately, won't be scaled by then, and so you'll be working with people who are cynical, unless you can find, you know, the way to frame this and root this in what they consider to be, you know, great innovation. So, you know, what are those? How do we get to the kind of metrics that businesses judge, you know, good innovation by, you know, in our circular economy design? You know, how can we? What kind of proof of concept do we need? What kind of ways are we going to develop? What kind of stories success stories do we want to build to convince the leadership, to convince the business? That's so important. That movement building side is so important for the circular economy. So it's always been important for good design, but it's incredibly emphasised, I think, in terms of the job you have to get ideas to market.
So, I think what we'd love you to do is, if you've all got your laptops, so for the next 20 minutes, half an hour, is go into the site, just have a play around, go wherever you want to, look at each of these methods. All of them, as you dive into them, have the same kind of setup. So there are steps there's some instructions that take you through some steps, and then there's a downloadable worksheet at the bottom that helps you do a very practical kind of exercise.
Tools have been really helpful in giving us step-by-step processes to allow us to start right throughout the whole supply chain. So we start right from the sort of the earth, so to speak, and that goes right up to the recycling and then back into the earth again. So it's that whole circular economy, and we're thinking about each stage of that cycle, which we've never really thought about before. But when applying it to a product such as this one, it helps us think about it in a different way and in a wider environment.
No, I think it's been really good. I think it's been very beneficial. It gives you a nice framework through which to kind of like source your ideas.
I think it's given us a framework to bring our ideas together and to try and make them more coherent within the circular economy model.
I'm Chris Grantham from IDEO, and I look after our consultancy offer in the circular economy space. It's very exciting to come down here today to get to work with some amazingly diverse student body and really explore, get their feedback when they road test the design guide we've been developing and get their feedback on how useful it is when it comes to developing innovation concepts. So that hopefully they've had some fun today. They've got some pretty amazing, wacky ideas, and they've been really exploring them looking at the kind of user needs, but also the business case, and thinking about the system that you would need to enable those ideas. So they've been exploring exactly the things we hope to explore with our design guide for the circular economy.
Hi, I'm Sally from IDEO in London, and we've had an amazing day down here in Exeter with these students. For us, this is really part of our design process. So we brought with us a prototype, and these guys are road testing it for us, and we really are looking forward to hearing all of their comments. They've already given us some fantastic feedback, so we can iterate our design so that when it gets out into the big world, people will see an amazing product that's been built with the users in mind.
The students are setting up right now behind me. They're going to be sharing their ideas in a second with all of us. It's been 2 intense hours. They've been testing out lots of methods. I know a lot of them have gone full circle, started with a product, and hopefully now will be a service, but time will tell.
So we started talking about this and worked out how we could do it, trying to change the lawnmower business into a kind of a service industry like an Uber. We then had a bit of a light bulb moment, which Justin will talk to us about.
Okay. So we decided to do a service flip, and we looked at the user needs within this. So we looked at the pretty obvious ones, which was basically grass cutting. But we also talked about there was an element of pride involved in it, making a house look better, keeping up with the Joneses, that sort of thing. There's also an ecological benefit to maintaining lawns rather than garden grabbing or concreting over your driveway. Due to runoff, it really benefits the local wildlife as well if you can keep your grass in good shape. But the main thing here, which was light bulb moment, was compost, and we started talking about what we could do with that and what value we could add to our, on the face of it, grass cutting service. So we started talking about how we could use it for allotments. This might lead to local food sourcing, how we could take the waste away as well for our clients and use it. We would mix it with food waste, so perhaps we provide a service to collect people's food waste as well. It would discourage the use of sheds as well, perhaps, so again, like a garden grabbing and things like that. And the other big one that we came up with was elephants. No, it was fuel. So we were looking at fuel and how we could perhaps turn the waste into biofuel.
And how did you find, because you sort of went on a journey, like you said, you went your lawnmower hire to basically a community biogas, your own community. Did the tools help kind of take you on that journey, or were you with the tools?
Well, it did, but it also, well, it did, but it also, what I think it did, it released our imagination,
okay,
our creativity.
Yeah.
Instead of being constrained, it's like, what if?
Okay.
So we play with those possibilities, the what if.
And we produce basically clothes and shoes and accessories, and they are especially for some special events like parties and birthdays and something like that, weddings. And our model is that people, they don't purchase or buy our clothes, but they will lease the clothes and accessories for a while special for the event. And we kind of establish a website, which is an online platform, so people will book their items online and share their experience with other people via our platform.
As sort of this was a concept, we thought if you could start finding materials to make dresses out of and to be able to recycle them, you would actually end up completely closing the loop, and there wouldn't be any landfill, which was our kind of aim, to try and find a way for the clothes not to end up as landfill. And in the UK, you can see 1 million tonnes of textiles are thrown away every year. 50% can be recycled, but only 25% are recycled. So even in our current model, we could still be doing double the recycling we are at the moment.
Yeah. And then, okay, so we also, kind of the other technique we employed was the continuous learning loop, and we just thought, this is an idea, and it starts out as an idea, and we have kind of these aspirations on how to make it work, but it's really through practice and experimentation and sort of feedback that you kind of hone in your process and figure out what's actually going to work for you. So we thought about the different ways that we could do that, testing the model and gathering feedbacks feedback from customers. And then we saw it as a constantly iterative process. So we want to kind of keep growing and developing and honing the process. We had talked about with the sharing community that we're hoping to establish online to be getting feedback from people in that way and see what works for them, see what needs they have, so that we can kind of tailor it around that, so to speak.
We're gonna offer a service in which we gather all the run out of ink markers. After that, we refill the ink, clean and reprint the markers in order that they can look like new markers. This is basically our service. We are a service company.
Why we need more markers? It's because they run out, but also because you lose them. So we thought of a system that they have a bin, unlike the university, that you put the used ones, and when they reach a trigger, they reach a volume, it triggers the art company to go and deliver more. So the organizations would be more responsible about disposal of the old markers.
And we assess things like nappies, e-waste, mobile phone, plastics, car supplies, car parts, glasses, concrete, and so on. And I thought we really need to get something which generates a lot of waste. So we decided to actually reinvent the wheel. How many? Yeah. How many of you drive? That's why we thought about developing the smart tire, that it will tell you all those sort of things and it gives you peace of mind.
We developed our value proposition to the market, which is to give you the same safety that you currently have, but we are going to develop a new tire that is not made with all the ingredients that the current tires that you have, and that's currently regulated by national authorities, and it's going to have bioproducts in them, so we will eliminate the dust that comes off when you use your tires. And our objective with our brand is to provide you with a tire that we can constantly service. We will have a smart chip in every tire.
The business like bus, trucks, or the garages that like using the service from us. Yeah. And through the channel is a feedback loop from the app, the information through the app. Yeah. And for the revenue structure, so we're thinking of the one thing is the smart tires that we, the garages and other using, paying for the tires, and also the data that we have on the chip in the tires that we can actually sell the data like to the company insurance.
So we are pick-to-pick, and basically what we've realized is that, or what they have realized is that the snowboard apparel is quite expensive, but it is also to do with fashion and style and swag, and also it changes very fast from season to season. We're actually checking some of the prices. They go as far as like over £700, and then maybe you just need it for that season. Next season there's another style, there's another gear, so, and then you just stash that one aside. So we thought there's actually a lot of waste actually that is happening.
That was really impressive. I think speaking for myself, I guess, I was really impressed with the level of, the levels you guys managed to get to from in just a couple of hours. I mean, I'm very excited about the idea that you guys have a whole year to do all of this, more of this stuff, because it's really, really impressive, and I hope that, I hope that this was inspiring and that you want to, continue to kind of, I think you mentioned it before, there's a bit of a mindset shift, which I found as a designer when I start getting my head around circular, where you're like, oh, okay, here's an interesting opportunity, and these you can kind of keep digging deeper, and it's quite exciting. So I hope you guys got a bit of a taste of that.